Content warnings for this episode include dysphoria, internalized trans hate, mental health, and religion/spirituality. Genderful would like to acknowledge the indigenous peoples and unceded lands that the producers, hosts, and guests live and have dwelt upon. Today, we honor the Coast Salish,
Dolo, Semiahmoo, SÁNEČ, Kwantlen, Tsawwassen, and Katzie.
We honor the elders, the human, plant, and animal ancestors of these lands, and celebrate the living descendants of these peoples. May all beings tend these lands for the goodness of the next 7 generations and beyond.
Welcome to GenderMeoster Podcast Network. Genderful is a talk show featuring non-binary and trans folks discussing various topics and special interests. We kindly remind our listeners that no person is a monolith of identities. All opinions are the speaker's own. This show airs live on Twitch at twitch.tv/GenderMeoster, and VODs with show notes can also be found on YouTube.
Howdy folks, I'm GenderMeoster. I use they, them pronouns. My furry co-host today is Neferkitty, who uses she, her pronouns, and I'm going to let my guest introduce itself and its entire system, if it feels like it.
So I'm Rylan. I use it, they pronouns mostly. And so far I'm the only one at the front for now. But we also have Rhys, who is, I'm just going to skip ahead to the part where we say all the tales on our image.
Sure. Can you describe the image first so that if people listening and can't see it can have a sense?
So it's a drawing of a fox with 7 different elemental tails. There's one that's kind of like plants, there's a watery one, there's a purple sparkly magic-y one, pink wind-ish type thing, flamey fire, rock, and it looks like electricity lightning for the other tail. So we have Rhys uses he, him pronouns, but he'll also take they. He is the green tail. And then Melody is she, her, and she's the water tail, the blue one. And then me, Rylan, I'm the purple tail. Ellie uses she, her pronouns as well, and she's the pink tail. Vanessa uses it, they, and is the fire tail. And then James, I skipped one. Marmalade is the rock tail. He's our kitty cat. And then James is our newest member, and he uses the yellow tail.
Huzzah. It's a very handsome looking image, if I say so myself.
It is. I like it. I wish I drew it, but...
So you got it from the Creative Commons. Did you ever find artist credit?
No, because it's also been used for, like, a bunch of other stuff, so it's all over the place.
Okay. Well, everyone, if we do find artist credit between now and when we publish this on YouTube and podcasting platforms, we'll add it to the show notes. So you can look in there in the show description if we manage to find it. Let's hop to our first set of questions. So you've told us a bit about your profile picture and what the tails represent. Gosh, there's so many places to go. So just so that folks know, if you're just getting here, our topic today is gender fluidity and plurality. And I'm Meoster, and I'm interviewing Rylan. And Rylan is part of a system of people called the Kitsune System. So I am going to ask about gender history stuff, but maybe before even we get to that far, could you just define very briefly what plurality is for those who've never heard of it?
Yeah, so plurality is when you have basically multiple people living inside of one head or one body. Everyone is part of the whole. And there's different types. There's the traumagenic, which are the ones who typically the system forms based on a trauma that the body has experienced. But then there's endogenic, which is what we are, which who the heck knows? We have no idea. We may have always been a system and just didn't know it.
Awesome. And we're going to get more into that stuff as we go. And I also want to let viewers know, and folks who maybe listening to this later, I actually have a series of interview that I've done with different plural systems, and all of that is in a playlist on my YouTube channel. So we'll make sure to link that in the show description. I think we've already had 4 or 5 interviews, so this is maybe number 5 or 6. So there's a lot of different perspectives you can hear about plurality from, if you'd like to stop by for that. So, Rylan, can you tell us a little bit about what are some things that you can trace back to your youth that indicated you might be gender expansive of some flavor in the future today?
The one that I always like to talk about is the fact that when we were young, we would like always play with, we had our Lego and Hot Wheels, and also our Barbies and our Polly Pocket. And a lot of the time we would, because we didn't have any official Hot Wheels tracks, we would make tracks out of Lego, and our Polly Pockets would sit on our Hot Wheels and drive the cars around the track. So it was never a, oh, this is a girl toy, this is a boy toy. Like, we just liked toys.
Yeah, I love that.
We were never like the other girls, quote unquote. Actually, coming to think of it, we had mostly male friends growing up too.
I was similar. I love
Yeah.
playing I love playing ninjas, and I loved like playing Zelda video games with my best friend who was a guy. And like I was more food motivated than anything. It was like no gender, only snacks.
Yes. My gender is snacks.
My gender is snacks. Yes, very relatable. Okay, so is there anything else? I mean, like, I don't know, how was middle and high school for you? I don't know what you call those in your part of the world. You might have
We
different
didn't
names for
actually
them.
have middle school where we live until our grade 8 year. So it went elementary school from K to 7, and then high school was 8 to 12. But then when we, funny story, when we got into grade 8, we went to this one high school, and that was the year that our local government decided, hey, let's give this middle school thing a try. Let's, upgrade or downgrade, however you want to say it, some of these high schools into middle schools. And lo and behold, the middle school we were in, or the high school we were in, is one of the ones that was changing to a middle school.
Mm-hmm.
So we were in 3 different schools, like 1 different school each year.
Wow.
So we went to our high school and then had to switch over to a different one for grade 9.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were part of we called ourselves the misfit crew.
Mm-hmm.
All the weirdos who didn't fit in with, normal high school society.
Quote unquote normal.
Yeah.
Whatever
Now the
whatever
normal ones are weird.
whatever normal is.
I don't know what normal is. I've never even been that.
I love that. Okay. So how has your relationship to gender evolved over time? Because clearly you went from no gender, only snacks to this fabulous amalgamation of genders and identities that you are today. So, yeah, how did that shift as you continued to grow up and become an adult and all of that?
So we are AFAB, assigned feminine at birth. And for a long time, we were fine just being female. It was like, yeah, okay, that's what I am. I started going through puberty, really enjoyed the chest growth. That was fun. Actually loved it. Uh, it wasn't really until I think near the end of high school, um, I would have these constant, like not constant, but fairly frequent dreams where suddenly I had a different body part on the bottom in these dreams, and
Yeah.
the whole thing would be just exploring that. And I just thought, oh, well, every girl has a dream like that. That's normal. And a bunch of the people, like the friends and family that I would mention it to, would be like, that sounds weird, but probably normal. And I went, okay, I guess that's normal? Question mark. Um, but honestly, it wasn't until just about a year, actually just over a year ago now, when my mom, who is lurking in the chat, Sonia, um, introduced me to the transverse who rated in here. Lovely. Because I'd always seen myself as an ally to the trans community. Never thought that I could be part of it because my assumption was I can either be a boy or a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm not a boy, so I guess I'm a girl. I didn't know there was anything in between.
Yeah.
So, poking around on the transverse for a while and understanding more about what gender is, um, learning that, hey, guess what? There's more options than just boy or girl. Uh, it was just like a veil lifted from in front of our eyes, and then suddenly the world was open and we could just choose.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that so much. It's part of why these online communities are so important to me, is because it helps people realize a bunch of things about themselves just by being in spaces talking with other people about it. Whereas, like, I would say in like default culture, people don't talk about gender identity or neurotype or like sexual identity or sexual identity changing over time, especially with like gender changes. And so um, I don't know, it's been really powerful to be in an online community together.
Well, yeah, and even on the topic of neurotypes and stuff, I didn't know any of that was a thing until I joined your community, Meowster, and having that channel there for neurodiversity and actually learning what that means made me realize that okay, so these weird quirks that I have that I figured was just a me thing, maybe that's actually ADHD. And then
Mhm.
learning more about the typical signs of ADHD and how it manifests was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm 98.8% sure this is ADHD going on in here." And it
Yeah.
just opened everything and made me feel more at home
Yeah.
in this weird brain that's been slapped into my head.
Yeah. So so can you pin down more specifically when and how you realized that you were gender fluid? Like, do you
That
remember how
was
long ago it was, or where it sort of sunk in for you?
yes, that was actually, mid-December of last year of 2021,
Mhm.
um, which is when I joined the Clouder. Because at that point, I had been digging around on the non-binary wiki, to try and find an identity that worked for me, and I'd landed on bigender,
Mhm.
and then was introduced to the lovely Juice, who I believe is also still in chat, um, and Juice taught us more about what bigender is and helped us to really see that, and we're like, "Okay, bigender sounds good because 'cause I'm mostly a girl, but sometimes I feel more like a guy." So I guess bigender works. Um, and then over time, as I began to become more accepting of the male part of me, it was like slowly the male part almost overtook the female part, and that sounds all dramatic. Um, that's kind of what it felt like at the time. And then I realized over time that the uh, the not female part was not actually male. It was just neither, and realized that is non-binary. And then once that part hit, it was like, oh, well, I guess I can't be bigender, but I, yeah, gender fluid, that works because sometimes it's more of a female non-binary male-ish thing.
Yeah.
So it basically morphed.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think now you might understand more reasons why it morphed or continues
Yes.
to morph as often as it does. Um, so what other experiences with gender fluidity have you had along the way? Like, do you notice that there are certain circumstances that you're a different gender? Do you notice, is it sort of like you wake up and that day you're a gender? I remember seeing your posts in the server for a while where you'd say like, oh yes, today I woke up and I'm this gender. And then it seemed like for most or all of that day you tended to be that gender. And my impression is that maybe has evolved since that time when you're posting in that way to something else now, and I'm curious to hear about those two stages and maybe how many months or what have you each one was, if you feel like talking about it.
Yeah, so a lot of the time it was just I would wake up and think to myself, okay, what gender am I today? And then sometime between waking up and being on the bus heading to work, I would land on something and be, okay, today I am a boyish girl. And then that would be generally how I felt for the entirety of the day. But after there was one point, it was a very confusing day because it was like, I swear, somebody was playing Wheel of Fortune and they were just spinning that darn wheel the whole day, and it was landing
Mm-hmm.
on a different gender every 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that was an interesting experience, and I don't know what to make of that anymore.
Yeah.
Um, Nowadays, a little less, it's a lot less wild in terms of fluctuations. Um, it'll go like, usually we'll have maybe 3 switches in a day, depending on whatever else is going on. But
Yeah.
of course, that also changed, realizing that the different genders are not just different genders, they're actually
Yeah.
different people.
Yeah. 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 Um,
Oh,
well,
sorry, my cat makes noise.
oh, it's all good. So maybe we could pivot now and talk a bit about plurality, because I feel like we need to bring that in to more understand some of these pieces. So, um, when and how did you realize that you were plural? So that's, I mean, it's a fairly new thing, right? So you realized you're gender
Yeah,
fluid December 2021, and now it's November 2022. So 11 months ago, you realized you're gender fluid. And then how recently did you realize you're plural? I bet we could find the post and find out the exact day if we really wanted to.
we could totally find the post. I know it was in the neurodiversity channel. Um, I want to say it was like 3 months ago. Um, Basically, there had been this inkling, like ever since I learned what plurality was, there was just it was so intriguing to me.
Hmm.
Just this idea that there's multiple people and it's not like that other name that they used to call the actual disorder, which we do not have. I just want to be clear on that.
Right.
Um, we are not diagnosed with anything. And
Yeah.
I know I've seen in some places there's a bit of discourse uh, regarding whether that type of system, my type of system, is actually valid. I like to say it is. I've seen enough people say it's valid to be okay with it being valid.
Yeah.
Um, Train of thought derailed, turned into a Roomba.
So when did you realize you were plural?
Oh yes,
You
yes.
posted about it, but do you remember when? I could try to look too.
If you want to try to look, that would be cool.
Yeah.
I know that it was in regards to somebody else in the server posted asking if this thing that they were experiencing was being plural. And then I realized, hey, wait a minute, that's me too.
Hmm.
I didn't know that that was a thing. Um, a lot of it was we would, a lot of the time in just talking to ourselves, would automatically say we instead of I.
Uh-huh.
No idea why. It was never explained even in my head. Um, it was just like, all right, what are we going to do today? Like that type of a thing. But it was so fluid and just automatic. Um, and a lot of the time when we would talk to ourselves, like when we're at home alone, we'll always do our random talking to ourselves out loud because we can. And I think that's partly an ADHD thing as well. Just like, oh, now I don't have to hide the random noises that my mouth likes to make for no reason. Um, I think there were other things that clued us into maybe being multiple humanoid things. Um, but yeah, it was very much the post in neurodiversity asking about is this a plural thing, and then talking with some of the systems on there and them confirming that Yeah, actually, we've thought you were plural for a while, just didn't want to say anything.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And that also helped the validation there because my biggest worry was, oh no, people are going to think I'm faking this just to, be part of the quote unquote cool crowd just because it's an in thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, that was exactly what I thought about being gender fluid in the first place was, oh, people are just going to think I'm jumping on the bandwagon.
Mm.
Getting over that part of myself
Yeah.
and realizing that if I've put this much thought and research into it, it's not fake.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of worry that I've done over it, it's real.
It is real. I think that type of gatekeeping is a common experience for new trans people, new plural people. And I just want to affirm for you that not all spaces are like that. And people deserve spaces to discover their identities in without gatekeeping, right? Like, you don't have to be on HRT to be trans. You don't have to want
Yeah.
to physically transition or have dysphoria to be trans, and you don't have to have a traumagenic system to be plural. Like,
And that's one of the biggest things that I have to thank you, Meowster, and the entire Discord server, because everybody in there is the reason that we are open to who we are right now. You all, just the acceptingness, the openness, the support, help, everything has just made it possible for us to realize where we are and who we are.
yeah.
So, had to get that out of the way first.
So it
But
looks
yeah,
like
that open space is what's
it,
needed.
it looks like your plural birthday is August 19, 2022.
All right.
So it's been a wild 3 months.
Very wild. And it's funny
um,
because at the same time, it feels like it's been forever.
I know. Yeah, no, I totally hear that. And I mean, you sort of alluded to this, but there was this moment in the server where multiple people who've been identifying as gender fluid for a while, in the same day, you all realized you were plural, like at the same time, and it was like watching
It was so
a
weird.
litter of kittens get hatched, like, or a litter of kitsunes. I don't know. And I've even noticed, like, you've been discovering more headmates over the last few months. Like,
We have.
when you first came out, do you remember what order your headmates came out in? Does that feel okay to talk about? I'm curious.
Yep. Yeah, so it was Rylan, Rhys, and Ellie were the originals. And it was very much Rylan is the middle, is the at the time was just non-binary, but now I've realized is actually agender. Um, and then Rhys was the boy, and Ellie was the girl. Ellie was the longest of the three to come out. It was originally just definitely Rylan and Rhys.
And is
We knew
that
there
boy
was a
BOI or BOY?
oh, it's definitely BOI.
All right.
um, so yeah, we knew there was a female in there somewhere, but she was very quiet and shy, probably because, like I had said before, with the gender fluidity coming in, was now that Rhys was out as much as he could be, he was kind of unintentionally shadowing over Ellie and just blocking her out. Um, sorry, I just saw in the chat asking if there's one tail for each headmate. Um, I can say that again now if that's cool.
Sure, yeah. And we've already done
Okay.
an audio description
Yeah.
of it. So folks listening later have already heard it.
Yeah, so the green tail in the middle is Rhys. The blue one is Melody. Purple is Rylan. Pink is Ellie. The fire one is Vanessa. The rock tail is Marmalade, who is our kitty cat. And the yellow tail is James, who's the newest headmate.
Hmm. I can't wait to hear about all of these headmates. So we've got Rylan, who's agender, Rhys, who's the boy BOI, and Ellie. Would you say Ellie is more femme? Is Ellie like
Yeah, Ellie is a very femme girl.
cis or some other gender? I don't know.
Yeah, Ellie is cis.
All right.
And then Rhys is trans masc.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were the originals. And then after a while, I don't remember. Sorry, everyone's chattering in my head.
They don't want the mic now because we're calling them out by name. I want to tell
Yeah,
my story. I want to tell my
yeah.
story.
So Melody was definitely the next to pop in.
Okay.
I don't really know how she made herself known, but I know that we were playing Sims 4 and we have the expansion which allows you to make a mermaid. And we love the mermaids. They're so much fun to make. So we were and in The Sims 4 you can essentially make a trans sim, which is great. So we were making a trans female mermaid several times, and we always called her Melody. And it wasn't until I think the third or fourth game that we made with this trans feminine mermaid called Melody that we started looking at each other and going, "Hang on a second."
Mm-hmm.
And so then Melody popped in our headspace, and we're like, "Okay, cool." And we'd worried for a while. Um, Melody was only presenting as just female. She didn't say that she was a trans femme because we didn't know if that was allowed. Like us as a female born body, how can somebody in our head be a trans woman? But we looked it up and that is actually more common than we expected. And there's the term lapis-femme, which is specifically a trans femme headmate in a trans masc body. So that made Melody feel a lot better and made her come out a lot more. She's taken on the role of the mother to the system.
Okay.
She likes to protect everyone and keep everyone in line, make sure they all do their homework. Not actual homework, but you know.
Unless. Oh well.
Unless.
Unless surprise homework. Um. Okay, so that was Melody. Was
Yeah.
Vanessa next? Was Marmalade next? Did they come together or separate? Do you remember?
I think they came at mostly the same time. Vanessa popped in because Rhys was getting tired of being blamed for some of our dark horror loving thoughts.
Sure.
Um, because he's just always been like the party boy, the your typical dude bro.
Yeah.
He does like horror as well, but some of the less savory thoughts that were floating around, he was getting mad at. Getting mad for being blamed for those. So then Vanessa finally came out of the shadows,
Mm-hmm.
and Vanessa's interesting because it's a demon,
Yeah. Does
and we
Vanessa? What
have
are Vanessa's pronouns?
it and they
Okay.
primarily, but it also uses Z, like
Cool.
XE. And I always mess up and try to call Vanessa a she, and then she bites me.
And then it bites you.
So yeah, see, and then it bites me. Vanessa's a demigirl. Um, and yeah, we don't know if Vanessa came from outside, like if it was a demon that tried to possess us and then decided that, hey, this is a nice place, I'm gonna stick around here. I've heard of that happening.
Mm-hmm.
Or if Vanessa somehow was like grown from us. We don't know. And it's keeping its mouth shut, doesn't want to
Mm-hmm.
tell us, because of
Yeah.
course.
Of course.
Why would a demon tell its secrets? And then Marmalade wandered in at some point. No idea how or why or where he came from, but he is just this adorable orange kitty cat who likes to curl up on laps. And one day after we peopled too much, Marmalade got free reign of the control panel and was just pawing at everything.
My orange cat Beatrix has wandered over just in time for you to tell us about Marmalade. I like to think B is
She
saying hi to
has.
Marmalade.
I think she is.
Yeah, little cutie patootie.
And then
Well,
yeah,
Marmalade is so fun. I like exchanging Discord stickers of cats and GIFs of cats with Marmalade. That's like my love language communicating with Marmalade. Is just like, please have cute cat pictures, Marmalade.
the best part is he sees it the exact same way.
Yay!
And then James is the baby of the group in pretty much every way. He was just discovered, I think, on this past Thursday.
Yeah, I remember you coming into chat and all your letters were lowercase, and I was like, ooh, who's this?
Yeah.
You're like, it's James. And I'm like, welcome to the mod team, James. We get 7 for the price of 1. What a discount.
Well, and it was great because then also when we posted, when James popped up, we posted in the server, and then Elle, one of the other lovely systems that we get to chat with, was just like, ooh, the 7th tail emerges.
Yeah, I love that. As foretold in prophecy. It's so good.
Oh, yeah.
I love it so much.
James is just the bubbly, happy kid. He's, what's the word? Hang on. We just were taught earlier a good word for this. Sorry, there might be some clicking while I look for it.
I'll put an orange cat to entertain everyone while you look.
Rosboy, spelled Rosboy.
Cool.
It's a term for a feminine boy or man. So to sidestep around to the one other term for that, which can be seen as a slur, but basically an umbrella term for all identities that involve being both a boy and feminine, and includes feminine aligned men and men who present femininity. So that is James.
It's so fun. And what has your experience been like with plurality so far? Is there sort of a division of labor? Do certain headmates tend to do certain tasks? Do you remember stuff between headmates and when you switch who's fronting? Those sorts of things.
Yeah, so we share memories, except for when someone wants to be a jerk, like when Melody hit our candle. Melody is the one who gets stuff done, so she was in charge of cleaning our bedroom. And we had to move this candle somewhere because it couldn't be seen because our landlord would freak out if we had even an unlit candle. Um, so she put it somewhere, and then we were looking for it later and could not for the life of us remember where it was. So Melody was just like, "No, I hid that. You're not getting it." And she was laughing at us, scrambling around, trying to figure out where the heck we put it. And then finally she let us remember. So that was pretty much the only time so far where we don't share memories. Um, Usually it'll be like if there's something important that we're doing, like work or something, it'll be Rylan and Melody sharing the load. Um, Rhys pretty much just hangs around for innuendos and anytime someone needs a dude bro.
Yeah.
And he gets on Melody's nerves all the time. And then Vanessa just hisses at everyone. But Vanessa's usually the one, like, if we're tired, like, if we have peopled too much, Vanessa is usually the one who will take over. And it sometimes resents that. Just like when I call it a she.
Well, and
But
that gets into an interesting dilemma is like when headmates speak for each other instead of for themselves. Like if someone has a question about a specific headmate, but they're not fronting or available right now, it's like, what do you do? How do
yeah.
you navigate that? And, I know that you're kind of newer to figuring that out. But it's even something I've heard other plural systems who've been on the show talk about before, is having to navigate some of those pieces.
Yeah, for us, we mostly just default to whoever, no matter who's fronting. If we're talking about ourselves as a system, we just use generic, like, we will refer to ourselves in the third person if, say, Rylan's fronting and is talking about the whole system and says, and Rylan does this, then that would be it talking in third person. But we basically just act as though, in physical speaking, we act as though it's just one person pulling the strings and talking about everybody. Because that makes it easier in verbal. And then in written, it's easy because we have plural kit.
Right. Well, yes. So for those who haven't heard of plural kit, I know we've talked about it on these plural streams before, but I feel like it's been at least 6 months since we did one of these. So if you wouldn't mind just explaining what is plural kit and why should Discord server owners add them to their servers?
So plural kit is a bot that works with Discord. It uses the Discord's webhook feature, which I don't know anything about, but I know that those are words that are correct. But it basically makes it so that the bot will latch on to the name of the user, like the user's account, and will post as though it's a different person. So, me as Rylan, I can, like, my account is linked to the, oh my god, words. Hang on, let me see a sec. So, it basically posts as a bot, but whichever person, whichever headmate I set it up to be. That probably made 0 sense because I wasn't expecting that to pop up.
We have we have Rosa in the chat. Rosa's the main admin of the Transverse's multiple Discord servers. There's at least 3 that I know of. There might be another secret one, but and Rosa says that Pluralkit is one of the first bots that she added to the server. But yeah, you're right. So Pluralkit uses webhooks, and when it does posts, it uses, when you turn your proxy on to whichever headmate is speaking, it actually posts with that person's username instead of, or that person's like headmate's name instead of the overall account username. And when it posts as like a bot account because it is a bot that's facilitating it, but it is multiple plural people behind the keyboard, right? It's not an automated post. And so some people get confused. They think a bot is posting and they don't realize it's actually like multiple people. I won't say humans because they're not always human, right? Sometimes it's Marmalade doing emojis, but multiple people, sentient beings, sharing their thoughts. And so it's actually I'd say it's a really important accessibility tool to consider as a person facilitating online space, because it allows people to show up in a way that is even harder to discern in real life, like switching in real life without like a different hat for each headmate or like a pin that you spin to who's fronting or whatever. Like, it's hard to know until you really get to know the people in the system and you can kind of tell them apart, to know who's fronting. And so it's a really nice option. Anyway, hopefully with our answers combined, we provided some more information about that.
And as a person who owns a couple of Discord servers and has added the bot to each of them, it's very easy as a server owner to add the bot. And you don't have to do any setup or anything. The people who are using the bot do their own setups.
Yep, it's awesome. There are other bots that can do what Pluralkit does. I'm less well versed in those. Now people want to know how to get into your Discord servers.
Unfortunately, I am going to have to not invite folks into those.
But Kitsune is a community ambassador in Meoster's Clouder,
Yes.
which is the Discord server that I started and a bunch of us run together. So there's the invite to that. Although the person asking is already in that server, so that's less helpful for you. And you're a mod over at the Transverse, so I'll drop the Transverse's information in the chat as well, if folks want to check out that server also. So, Rylan, what do you think is important for people to know as they engage with you and all of y'all as someone who experiences plurality, both online and in person?
For in person, it's a lot easier. There's not very many people in person who know about this.
Mm-hmm.
So we just generally say we're gender fluid.
Mm-hmm.
But for those who know, it's like when we're in person, we just all accept Rylan. We all accept they, them pronouns. Unless we specifically say that somebody is saying a thing, you don't have to worry about it. And then when it comes to online, like in servers, if it is someone specific saying something, chances are we will be using Pluralkit to say that, hey, this is Vanessa, or this is James, or whoever. The only thing I would really say to that is please respect the fact that even though my account says Rylan, if Pluralkit is saying that this is Vanessa, it's Vanessa.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to call us Rylan.
Yeah.
And just speak to each headmate as though they are a different person, because they are. They're their whole person. So yeah, just treat any system's headmate with the same level of respect you would treat a singular human person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the word for singular human people is singlets,
Yes.
as opposed to plural systems or median systems is another. There's a lot of phrases, but those are two of them.
Those are the only phrases that we know.
Yeah. Okay, so how would you describe your relationship between your plurality and your gender fluidity?
So one of the things that helped us realize we were plural was actually Rhys is
Mm-hmm.
the biggest factor here. We realized that the reason that it feels like when we're in boy mode we're a whole different person is because, hey, we actually are. It was like when we were in boy mode, which was actually Rhys fronting, um, our entire personality was so different. It
Mm-hmm.
was like not even us pretending to be a dude bro. It was like, no, I am a dude bro. So then it was very quick to figure out, oh, okay, that actually is another person, and his name is Rhys. Okay, cool. Um, but yeah, whereas before we would say like, oh, I'm having a girl day. Now we just know that that's Melody or that's Ellie. And we just know that each gender we experience is a different person. So it's still, I still like to call it gender fluidity because it's still fluid in how it moves. And it's easier to say.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, more socially accepted to be gender
Hmm.
fluid. Not that it's like super easy to be trans and out, but and I'm using trans expansively here.
Yeah.
But even fewer people know about plurality than know about gender diversity. So it's like
Yeah, and
a
trying
fractal
to get
a
into that.
fractal pile of like complicated stuff.
And yeah, trying to even explain to a person that plurality is not like the movie Split.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Have you seen any good media representation of plurality?
uh
There's a lot of bad representation out there, but I don't know. Have you seen any good ones?
we
I'll ask the
haven't
chat the same question. Feel free to write your answers in the chat if you've seen good ones. If you're
we've
plural.
heard good yeah, we've heard good things about Moon Knight.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it ourselves. Actually, we haven't seen anything plural related since realizing that we're plural. Yeah, that one Marvel movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Moon Knight. Everybody in the chat saying Moon Knight. I enjoyed Moon
Yeah.
Knight. There is at least one thing about that show that I want to make sure I highlight for folks that it's not a universal experience. The part where the at least two, I don't want to spoil anything. There's at least two headmates, and they don't remember when the other one is fronting at all.
Yes.
So there's this really like alarming sort of experience watching Moon Knight where it's like there's time lost, and so the person comes to somehow, and they're like, what is happening? And they're in a strange situation that they didn't expect, that like we didn't see the lead up to it, and so part of the show is kind of like unwrapping how did we even get here. Yeah, so not every plural system or median system experiences their multiplicity in that way, where
Yeah, we
you
do
don't
not.
share memories. Yeah,
We
exactly.
basically we describe our headspace as being like a mix of Monica's apartment from Friends with the giant glass window and the control panel from Inside Out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically like we have this cozy living room where we all sit and chat. Um, and there's also a control panel in front of the window, and the window is what our physical eyeballs are seeing. So pretty much whoever's in the room knows what's going on. And then if we leave the room and come in, it just kind of, I don't know, it just like downloads into everybody's consciousness that this is what happened while you were out.
Yeah. Um, I have a question for you that I've put in the document that I want to ask you if it's okay to ask before I ask it. So while I'm waiting for your confirmation, I will instead ask, if you could travel back in time and speak to your younger egg self, what would you say?
Um, I would say just be you. Just don't worry about what other people are going to think. Just be who you are and be happy with who you are and express yourself. And we'll get to it. Like we will get there.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Just be you. Be yourself.
Because I mean, that's how we figured it out, was being ourselves.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I love that. So when you filled out the talk show intake, you mentioned that you also want to talk about writing a little bit. Do you still want to talk about that tonight?
Yeah, we can do a bit of that. There's still some time here.
Okay.
Um,
So go ahead. Yeah, what do you write and why? Tell us about that.
yeah, so I write with a friend online. Her name is Jazz. She's not in chat right now. She's, I think, in bed. Um, we met on fanfiction.net probably about 11 years ago. It has to be more than that, but math doesn't want to happen.
It's fair. It's late.
Oh, 12 years. Sorry, Rhys did the quick math. Um, so we met on there. She was writing Twilight fan fiction.
Wonderful.
And yeah, and I was reading it and reviewing it and chatting with her in private messages. And at the time in high school, my group of friends and I who were doing, like, on paper, we would do Twilight roleplay. So each of us would be a character, and we'd all just write passing notes in class or just writing out random stories of stuff that's happening with them. I was Nessie. I was the lovely Renesmee.
Nice.
And so we did that in school. And so when I was reviewing Jazz's stories, at one point I asked her if she wanted to roleplay. And I said, I roleplay Nessie. And then she was like, yeah, okay, we can do something like that. And so then we started writing our own Twilight fanfics, which slowly expanded into doing other fandoms that we shared. And then one day we decided, hey, you know what? Let's make our own world. And so we did our first original story. And that one was set in a sort of world like our world, except that some people have elemental powers usually. Sometimes it's not elemental. So and our two main characters, our favorite characters in the entire story, were this adorable gay couple. Love them so much, Adrian and Dante. They will forever be my favorite couple that we've written. So yeah, it was this whole world that we built. I ended up hating my female main character because she was just not a good person by the end of it.
Mm.
And then I felt bad because I'm like, but I wrote her. I shouldn't be hating on her. And then I'm like, no, but I hate her. I hate that I'm writing these words for her to say.
It must mean you were keeping your character in character.
Oh, very much so. I've always been a character author, which I think I've heard from some other systems that it's easier to get into the heads of your characters.
Yeah, as a plural system.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun.
Um,
Because you do it all the
yeah,
time constantly anyways.
exactly. And like all of my characters that I've written live up here in my head too.
Yeah.
I can slip back into Adrian whenever I need to. Which is good because sometimes Jazz and I will do like a big compilation story where we just take random characters from different universes that we've written and throw them all together and see what happens.
Yeah. Spires is saying in chat, us too, sometimes your characters get into your head and they won't hecking leave. So then you have
Oh,
Fiction
yes.
Kid in your mind. That's part one of your headmates.
Oh, that would be great. Except for not with some of the characters I've written, because I like to be very mean to my characters sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
The more I like them, the meaner I am. And that's just because I enjoy writing their responses to this.
Yeah.
And I just realized that was going in a dark place and I'm not going there.
All right. Well, that's fair. So let's see. Is there anything else you want to say about the kinds of things you write? You already mentioned some of that, but I don't know if there's more you want to say.
So nowadays we basically write a sort of anything goes fantasy, where we will take any species, any whatever. We've had mermaids in the same story as vampires, in the same story as elves. We had a whole dragon monarchy that we created. We did a world where we actually made our own world, um, with its own pantheon of gods that created that world. And we explored writing as those gods and goddesses, and that was actually my favorite universe that we've ever done. My my one character was Thierry. He was the god of night, and he was chaotic neutral. He was a lot of fun. I love him. But yeah, pretty much just fantasy. Any species we can think of, just throw them in there and see what happens.
Having banter in the chat with someone about how you should make a website that explains your world and characters.
I was noticing that and started to get derailed. Maybe it wasn't a good idea to have chat open.
It's an adventure. It's an adventure. Imagine if you were trying to mod right now too. Wouldn't that be exhausting?
God, yeah. There was good thing Melody talked us out of that.
Well, I wouldn't have let you anyways, so
I figured
if Melody didn't, I would have talked you out of it.
Yeah, the Dragon Monarchy universe was a pretty good one too.
Would you say that you write more for yourself or for your readers or someone else?
Definitely for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We plan on being published one day. I'm the one who's going to be because we write this all in script format, just to make it easier to role play it. So I'm the one who then has to take that script format and turn it into book format.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been falling behind on that because ADHD.
Yeah.
That's my story and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah. Well,
but yeah, we definitely
there's so many things to do in any given day.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a reminder for the chat. If you have any other questions, this is your last call for the AMA. In the meantime, Rylan and Kitsune System, is there anything that we missed about gender fluidity and plurality that you'd like to make sure that you all get to say?
I think we've pretty much said it all for that. Explained how we figured out that we're actually many people, and that Rhys was the first one who jumped out and said hi. Oh yeah, I should verbally tell you all the fun story of when James joined the party. We were sitting there at work, and we assumed it was Melody who was fronting because she was fronting the previous night, and usually whoever left off in the previous night will at least be there for the morning. So we assumed it was Melody, and we're all just sitting there on the couch in our head, and then Melody walks in the room, and we're like, wait, why aren't you at the control? I thought you were the one in front. And then she says, no, I haven't been in front since last night. And we all kind of look at each other in this comical, then who was phone type of moment. And we turn around, and then James is standing there, and he just waves, and he goes, oh, hi, it's me. And then we were like, okay, who are you?
That's so fun.
Yes, exactly, Sunberry. Then who was driving the bus?
Then who was on the phone? That's so funny. So, okay, we have 2 questions from chat. Spires asks, if you were in a movie, who would you cast for each of you?
Oh, Ryan Reynolds is definitely going to be Rhys.
Nice.
That's just an immediate one.
Yeah. Who else?
I think I would want Helena Bonham Carter to be Vanessa. I like choice. I like her dark ladies.
Yes. Very good.
If I could go back in time and take like teenage Leonardo DiCaprio to be James,
Ooh.
I would totally do like Romeo and Juliet era Leo DiCaprio. That is James, except with red hair.
Nice.
See, that's James, Vanessa, Rhys. Ellie, I think.
Go ahead.
Ellie would be Dakota Fanning.
Oh, nice. I can see that.
Melody. Oh, you know what? Cameron Diaz. Cameron Diaz could totally be Melody.
I like that.
And then, oh yeah, of course, Rylan's the one I'm struggling with because I've never known.
You don't have to have an answer for every single one. But
Yeah, no, I don't.
Would Jorts the cat play Marmalade?
Very much, yes.
That's so fun. Okay, so we have another question from chat. Shall I ask it or let you think more about who would play Rylan in a film?
Nah, let's move on.
All right. So Sunberry asks, what would be the best way to politely ask who is fronting or who we're talking to, or how should I address a person?
Honestly, just asking it straight up. Like if you're in person, you can just ask, "Hey, who's fronting right now?" And that's exactly perfect.
Yeah.
And then if it's like on Discord, for example, if we're not like if you're not coming in during a conversation where somebody's already clearly fronting using the plural kit, um, and you just kind of want to start a conversation with us, you can always just tag us and say, just tag us and say hi, and then whoever's fronting will respond with a hi.
Follow-up question. What if you want to talk to a specific headmate and they're not the one fronting? Is there etiquette around that? Because I think there might be.
For
I
us,
also
there
don't know
isn't.
if you know it, but yeah, for you
Yeah,
all there isn't.
Yeah, for us, there isn't. Like, if James is fronting, but someone wants to talk to Melody, just say, "Hey, can I talk to Melody?" And Melody will be like, "Sure."
Yeah. I know that some Discord servers, for example, will have rules about like if you know certain triggers that will pull out a certain headmate, like
Mm.
don't necessarily do that just to get that person's attention because it's rude, right? Because
Oh, definitely.
what if Rylan's in the middle of something and then I'm like trying to talk to Rhys, so then I'm like yoinking Rhys out, and then Rylan's like, "Hey, I'm walking here. What are you doing?" Like,
Yeah, for us, there's not really any specific triggers that will force anyone out. Um, I mean, if someone says something that can be made into an innuendo, Reese will just pop in with a little snicker. But that
mhm.
doesn't derail whoever was fronting.
Yeah, Rhys kind of like throws a paper airplane over the shoulder of whoever's fronting, is like, "Lol."
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
That's so funny. We also have a response in the chat. Spire says, if they can't come, some people may relay messages, some might not.
Mm.
So there's that piece too. And that's also really dependent on, like, again, if people have shared memory between headmates or not.
Yeah. Yeah, it very much would depend on the system.
I feel like that would
And
be a
how
great thing to negotiate with each plural system that you're friends with and figure out
yes.
different individual preferences.
Yes. Most systems are very much okay with answering these types of questions. Most systems that I've interacted with are also very eager to explain anything that is asked. So I know that in both Meowster server in the Clouder and in the Transverse Discord server, if you're not a plural system, you are absolutely allowed to type in the plurality channel and ask questions. I know sometimes people are worried that, well, no, I'm not plural. I can't type in there. I know we were worried about that too.
Yeah.
But definitely ask. We love to answer.
Yeah. Well, and those particular spaces, like, have sort of declared that they're a combination of educational spaces and insider spaces, and so I would just invite mindfulness about the intention of the channels or spaces you're asking, because
Yeah.
the last thing we need is for people to think that plural folks are just available for education 24/7 365. Just like trans people aren't always available to educate you, people of color are not always around just to educate you. Like, it has to be the right time and place, which I think my audience and community is pretty mindful about, but I just wanted to throw it out there for folks who, maybe this is the first episode that you've ever heard of anything we've ever made and you have no idea what the culture of the Clouder community is about. Now you have some things to think about. So, okay. I want to honor your bedtime because I know you've work tomorrow. So,
Yes.
can you share an experience with gender euphoria?
The first time that we tried boxer briefs, that was so amazing. It was we didn't know what we were looking for. It was so nerve-wracking to be female-shaped shopping in the men's underwear section, even though we know full well that plenty of cis women will buy their men underwear. So nobody was going to judge us, but it was still so nerve-wracking because I didn't know what we were looking for. But when we finally got them home and tried them on, and the first day that we went out into public wearing boxer briefs and on the bottom and a bra on the top, just that mixed match of this is a girl clothes, this is a boy clothes. Not that clothing should be gendered, just saying.
Yeah.
It was just so euphoric. We love chaos. Gender heckery, we'll say.
Yeah. That's very
Like,
good.
is this a boy? Is this a girl? Yes.
Yes. It's also a demon.
Yes. Oh,
and right
Ellie
behind
is
you.
a fairy.
I love
Ellie
that
is a
Ellie's
fairy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. Rosa is sharing something perhaps from a moderator perspective. The only thing I try to keep an eye on in those rooms is questioning that makes someone justify their existence.
Yes.
Yeah. That's not cool. That's just more gaslighty, gatekeepy, not gaslight, gatekeepy stuff that's unnecessary.
Yeah, and that's the type of stuff that is likely to keep somebody in the closet.
It is. It is. Yeah. All right. My last question for you, Rylan of Kitsune System. What would you like to make sure folks know about your perspective on gender and non-binary / trans / gender fluid issues?
I would say
if you
just
have a soapbox, what is it? What do you tell people in your 30 seconds of fame?
cis allies of the world. Support your people. It doesn't take much more than just if somebody says, "Hey, can you not call me dude? I really don't like being called dude." "Oh, okay, sorry." And then just don't call them dude. It's not hard to be nice to somebody and respect their wishes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you're thinking that you might not be cis, go for it. Explore. The real good people in the world will not get mad at you if you're using the non-binary label and you don't know if you're non-binary. Nobody knows at the start. Well,
Yeah.
very few people know at the start.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Kindness is free. Spread it around.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that. All right. Well, everyone, Rylan is a wonderful gender fluid plural person who enjoys writing and playing games. You can catch them on our Discord server. You can catch them on the Transverses Discord server and on both of our streams at different times. And on Twitter at twitter.com/Rylan the Strange. Rylan is RYLAN. Rylan's also on TikTok with the same username. And I just want to remind folks who maybe didn't hear this at the beginning, we do have an entire playlist about plurality on my YouTube channel. So if you want to learn more about plurality, hear differing perspectives, because just like no one identity, no one person is a monolith of their identities, no one plural person or plural system is a monolith of all plural people. And so it's important to hear multiples tell stories about their multiple experiences, about being multiple. So I also want to do a special reminder of an event coming up this Sunday. So if you're hearing this right when it publishes on YouTube this Friday, you still have time to make it. If you're catching this months from now, come next year. But this Sunday, we're observing Trans Day of Remembrance right here on the GenderMeoster channel. We're going live at 11 a.m. Pacific, and it is a community grief ritual. So we are going to be reading the names of all the people who were murdered or otherwise taken from the trans community, the gender diverse community, through neglect and violence over the last year. At the end of the stream, my hope is to have a screening of Ordinary, which is a short film by Atlas Agun Phoenix, a filmmaker and auteur based out of, I think, the Minnesota area. Atlas also co-hosts the show with me sometimes. So we'll be watching Atlas's film on stream as part of the end of that experience together. It's a beautiful black and white film. We watched it about a month ago on stream for a different special event. So if you haven't seen it yet, it would be a great time for you all to come check it out. And yeah, so next week, we're not having a guest for Genderful because of Trans Day of Remembrance. But in 2 weeks, our guest is going to be Kai, and we're discussing gender identity and mental health. Next Monday is Buy Trans People Pizza Day because we're all tired and worn out and sad from Tidor. So you should definitely buy Trans People pizza or a meal of their choice next Monday, the 21st. The 21st is also when those trans surveys are due, so get them in this week if you haven't done them yet. You have until the 21st. For now, Genderful would like to thank our guests for being on this podcast. Feel free to join us live on Twitch on Mondays and check out replays on YouTube on Fridays, and keep an eye on your favorite podcasting platforms for edited audio-only versions. As Neferkitty likes to say, trans rights are human rights. That's right.